Hello, everybody. Just checking in with you. I know everyone has a lot going on, and I wanted to find out how you're coping during the whole COVID-19 pandemic. I know for myself, in the beginning, I was getting up, getting dressed, doing work at my desk, and trying to find something positive to do every day. So, for example, I tried some new recipes. My favorite was the lentil soup recipe, which made a pot of soup that was so large that I was eating lentil soup for about 2 weeks. I also tried to find pleasure in just drinking my morning cup of tea out on the back porch in the sunlight and, just trying to make the best of things, dancing to my favorite Bruno Mars song in my kitchen, listening to podcasts, all the usual and customary things. But now, like many of us, and I'm sure you may be struggling too, as the quarantine drags on, I find myself having more bonbon days, which is stress management by chocolate, by the way, or just needing to have a few more sugar cookies after dinner. So we know that stress is the major cause of relapse from any kind of eating issue. And so what should we be doing? Well, the first thing that I found that helps is to admit to myself that I'm struggling, not trying to pretend anymore, just admitting this is not easy for any of us. I can be as rah-rah as the next person and all the we're in this together stuff. But at some point, I just have to admit that this really sucks. The part that I think that sucks the most is hearing so much about people who are suffering and dying. The ongoing isolation that many of us are experiencing. If you live alone like me, then you're not essentially talking to another human being for days on end. And I've been in quarantine for over a month now. So I haven't hugged or spoken to any of my family members in person for over a month, and that's been tough. I didn't get to celebrate my big birthday like I had planned in early April, and it looks like I won't get to be with anyone on Mother's Day either. So I just think it's time for us to say it straight. I doubt anyone finds this easy. It's just tough all the way around. However, despite my struggles, I'm really clear about how lucky I am. A month ago, I logged in or wrote an email to many of you telling you that I had been sick presumptively with COVID myself. And it was the sickest I've ever been in my life. And it was really scary to be that sick and to be alone and for it to last so long. Went on for 2 weeks, really hard. And then I thought I was getting better. And as soon as I thought that, then things got worse again. And so it's been up and down for a total now of a month. So while I'm being honest that things are tough, I have to remind myself that even though I was sick for a long time, I didn't get put on a ventilator. None of my family is ill so far, and I'm really grateful that my health is improving. So I hope that none of you have to go through the awful sickness that I went through. And to avoid that, we really have to really stay home. I know you're getting that message every which way but loose, but honestly, it's worth it to stay home to avoid getting the virus. So I cry a little bit every day. Another fact that I've had to acknowledge is that many people have lost their lives, and maybe I don't know them. I don't have any contacts with people who are sick right now, but many people are ill, and I'm seeing my colleagues in the medical profession who are on the front lines. I go to the grocery store, not very often, but occasionally with my mask on, and I see people there who are working throughout this pandemic. They're still working, and I know many of them are getting sick, and also other essential employees are putting themselves on the line for us. And just like after 9/11, even though no one I knew personally had died, I felt an enormous sense of grief and loss that my fellow Americans had died or had lost a loved one. So my point is, whether or not you've been directly affected by COVID-19, whatever you're feeling is valid. If you're feeling sad, that's valid. If you're feeling angry, scared, all of that's really okay. That's why it's so important to acknowledge what you're feeling and to allow yourself the right to feel those feelings, to cry, to punch a pillow, kick a ball around, do whatever you need to do to let your feelings be expressed. Because we know that when you don't express feelings, when you use food, or when we use food to push those feelings down or to numb them, it just makes everything worse. I think the biggest thing that I've done for myself also is to limit my contact with the news. I know maybe you have too, but I know I could be stuck on my phone looking at statistics and hearing the dire news, and it just makes me feel worse and worse. And so I've had to limit it. I want to be educated. I want to know what's happening, but I don't want to be obsessing about it because I know how that makes me feel. And most importantly, give yourself some grace. Grace. However you're coping, even if it includes overeating or binging, don't judge yourself. Do not judge yourself, no matter what's happening. Observe yourself, but don't judge. Grace is defined as courteous goodwill. So extend some courteous goodwill to yourself. If you go to your default behavior like I do sometimes, or I have sometimes during the quarantine of stress management by chocolate or binging on cookies or ice cream or whatever your particular food helper is, I'll call it your food helper. Just be kind to yourself. Recognize this is a tough time. And even those of us who have all kinds of coping skills out the wazoo are struggling. So you may be struggling too. It's okay. Observe what is happening. Don't close your eyes to it and pretend, la, 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 I didn't eat the bag of chips. Just observe it and then don't judge it. Allow yourself some grace. And the last thing I would recommend is don't let your ship sink. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is try not to do so much damage to yourself by overeating and binging that when the pandemic is over, you look back and think, oh my goodness, I've really made things a lot worse for myself. So if you can stay mindful of what you're doing, if you can observe yourself without judgment, then those days where you overeat or binge can just go by the wayside, and they don't have to be part of a vicious cycle where the binging just keeps going on and on and on. Normally that vicious cycle, as I've said to you so many times, is fueled by self-judgment and negative self-talk. Oh, I ate that bag of chips. This is ridiculous. I might as well just give up. I might as well just binge my way through the pandemic. You will regret it if you do that. And so think now of in whatever way you can, not judging, letting what happened yesterday stay in the past, and paying attention and observing what you're doing now without judgment. Like the kids say, try to minimize the damage by staying woke. You don't want to fall asleep because you're so angry or afraid or, sad. Don't fall asleep at the wheel. Stay woke. If you stay aware of what you're doing, you're less likely to let things get completely out of control. Okay, I hope you're coping. I wish you the best of health. Please follow the directions that our erstwhile CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, is giving. And I look forward to talking with you again soon.